Hey there, and welcome to the Learn in Lebanon podcast. I'm your host and City of Lebanon intern, Lauren Argate. In this podcast series, we explore the educational opportunities available through Lebanon School Corporation. Today, I am joined with almost the entire Agriculture Department of Lebanon High School. Our special guests include Ms. Rudolph, Mr. Reed, and Mr. Homan. Our 4-star Mrs. Bradway is at home snuggling with her newborn baby, Ellie. Together, this dynamic dream team at Lebanon High School is shaping the future and making a big impact. Let's jump right in and learn more about their incredible work. The Lebanon High School Ag Department is packed with knowledgeable and friendly teachers who have various fields of expertise. Today, we are here with 3 out of the 4 ag educators, FFA advisors at Lebanon High School. So, welcome. Thank you so much for sitting on the podcast with me today. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself, your background in agriculture and teaching?
Okay, so my name is Miss Rudolph, or Kate Rudolph. So a little bit of background about me is I grew up in Northwest Indiana on a family grain farm, and I grew up showing livestock, so kind of where I got into having a love and appreciation for the agriculture industry. And I've just always loved working with people. I want to make people happy. I want to help people. And so it kind of landed me in the ag ed spot at Purdue University. You know, I went back and forth on if I wanted to be in the classroom or not. I kind of ended on not wanting to be in the classroom. I was supposed to be in grad school. I was going to go into athletic training, sports medicine, but I had enough people that were kind of pushing me in the right direction, and I landed here, and it's been an exciting time. So I started teaching last August, so this is year 2 here at Lebanon.
And Mr. Homan, what about you?
Well, Lauren, first of all, thanks for having us.
Of course.
Really appreciate this opportunity. I'm Dustin Homan. I grew up in the great Buckeye State of Ohio, next door. Don't shake your head like that. I grew up next to my grandpa's farm. I was in 4-H and FFA. I was a 10-year 4-H member, served as a state FFA officer in Ohio. So both those organizations were really important to me, and those organizations helped me to get to college and to be able to fund college because my parents were going to be able to do that. So going into college, I always knew I wanted to give back in some way to those organizations. I thought I was going to be a politician at first, run the USDA someday. And then I took my first political science class at Ohio State and decided this is not for me. So I switched my minor to international relations, which I can get into that later. But I went to Ohio State, ended up there twice to get bachelor's and master's degree in agriculture education. From there, worked a couple different jobs, I've done stuff with 4-H, and then most recently I was teaching at Purdue Polytechnic High School, helped to start their ag program and their FFA chapter. And what brought me to Indiana, though, was a very lovely woman, my wife Emily, and we've got 3 boys and 1 on the way. So that's what brought us here to Central Indiana.
All right. I started off life on a small farm back home where it led me to find my love for agriculture. Showing livestock. I started out with pigs and sheep, and a few other small species of rabbits and ducks. But I really found my niche was with beef cattle, and still showing pigs. And then starting through high school, I realized that teaching agriculture was where I wanted to find myself post grad of high school. My mom is an educator. My lots of cousins and grandma taught. And so when I applied to Purdue, I knew ag ed was where I was going to be. And 3.5 years later, I was still feeling that same vibe, and accepted a job to teach at Mineral Central in Farmland, Indiana. And I taught there for 1.5 years before Miss Rudolph here convinced me to come to Lebanon High School. And so far in the past month or so, it's been a great move. I enjoy educating the youth here in somewhat of an urban area, mixed with a little agriculture background. It's been a really fun change, being from a town called Farmland.
I love it, and I'm so glad you guys are all here because along with Miss Bradway and all of you 3 individuals, we certainly are making a dream team at Lebanon. So you are at all originally from Lebanon. So what inspired you to come here?
So I'll start with this one. But what got me into Lebanon, it was just kind of like the right place at the right time. like I said before, I was planning to go back to grad school, so I had no intention of taking a job. So I actually started the school year late last year. I started about a month into the school year because I just kept telling myself, no, you don't want to do that. No, you don't. You're not going to. And it was about time for Purdue to start again. I was about ready to move back in. And it popped up so many times, this job opening. And I had a near and dear mentor and friend, Dr. Russell at Purdue. He reached out to me enough times and was like, hey, Kate, I think this one's for you. I think this is the spot. And I didn't really know anything about Lebanon besides it was a bigger city than what I grew up in. And I knew a few people here, not a lot. So it was a brand new thing for me, but I'm really glad I did it. And I think I owe most of that to Dr. Russell pushing it towards me enough times. And then all my friends and family members just kind of giving me that push like, hey, yeah, you can do that. Because I was just so convinced that I couldn't. So I am glad that all those people did that for me.
Mr. Homan, coming from the Buckeye State, why did you end up in Lebanon, Indiana? What brought you?
I married a Boilermaker, so hopefully
she's smart.
Well, I'm smart.
Yeah, but
You chose
a Boilermaker, but she was smart for becoming the Boilermaker.
You want to talk about football records?
You want to talk about basketball?
No. All right. So, what got me to Central Indiana was my wife, Emily. Her family was here. So when we started a family, we wanted to be closer to her family. I have some family here as well. But what got me to Lebanon specifically, last year I brought students from Purdue Poly up here to the Invitational, and we had some downtime during the event. And I was walking around with our students, and we started poking our heads in all these rooms and the immaculate facilities that we have here in the greenhouse. And all the kids just kept saying we're so jealous. Imagine what we could do here. And I'll be honest, I started seeding stuff in my head imagine what you could do with these facilities with students. So that was always kind of in the back of my mind. And then I saw the job posting for this and decided to apply, came up for the interview. And on the way home, I was just setting up some prayers if this is where you want me, Lord, make it very clear. And as I looked up, there was a massive billboard on the interstate that said, be a teacher, right outside of Lebanon. And to me, that was my sign. It's all right, this is it. So I'm really excited to be here. I've never worked on a team of ag teachers before. So to be able to have the breadth of knowledge and to be able to split up responsibilities and offer kids so many different things, it's been a joy.
It's funny that he says that he was praying on the way home because we all left the interview and we were all praying on our way home that he would call us and tell us that he wanted to take the job because we thought he was pretty cool.
I appreciate you saying.
You want to tell him too about the voicemail you found on my phone?
Oh yeah. So I get here and Kate decides that she wants to take the nice room with the windows, so she puts me in the closet, which is fine. I'll maybe work my way up someday. But so I'm in Kate's old room, and I was going through my voicemails the other day, and there's actually a voicemail on her phone from me when I was at Purdue Poly, calling to ask about the Lebanon Invitational event. So it was just it was kind of
it was meant to be.
Yeah, it was cool how the
full circle. I didn't know how to use my voicemail, so
that would explain it. Yeah,
I wasn't ignoring him, but full circle.
So, Mr. Reed, before you accepted the job at Lebanon, you actually met with the officer team. We tried to win you over. So, what brought you to Lebanon?
Yeah, so as
just
I mentioned,
Lauren.
yeah, probably. just you. As I mentioned before, obviously Miss Rudolph and I were really good friends in college, starting up there at the same time and taking a lot of ag ed classes together, and just finding that friendship with Miss Rudolph was great. And then, when she reached out and said, "Hey, we have an opening up here," and I loved being at home. I grew up in Randolph County. I really enjoy that. But something about trying something new did excite me enough to at least entertain her interest. And so actually, I still at that. With that being said, though, I told her no several times. And at state livestock judging, she mentioned some things to me about the good things, because I kept saying, well, I like this about where I'm at, or I can't move because of this reason. And she told me,
I think I texted him every single day.
Yeah.
Hey, come to Lebanon.
Yeah. And so when we were at this contest finally in person, this was really the first time there at the Tippecanoe County Fairgrounds that we really talked about it in person, and with some other ag teachers and young people that we went to college with. And I just kept bouncing these things off her, and she said like, "Oh no, this is better at Lebanon. This is better here," and she wasn't wrong. And so eventually, I said, "Okay, I'll come see what you got at the school and talk to your group of admin, who, by the way, are really, really awesome folks." But I came up and I interviewed somewhat informally just with her and Mrs. Scott, and got to see the rooms again. Miss Bradway was here leading us around and things. And so then I got all my questions answered, and then kind of had a surprise a little bit. Miss Rudolph had the officer team here across the way at the park. And so we went and met, and they just made me feel really welcome, and showed me like, wow, like these kids are awesome. Like it was in the summertime, right? And so they showed me that, they're going to show up even when it's not, Monday through Friday, 8 to 3. And so I had a lot to do with it. And then like Mr. Homan said, the team, being able to work with a team of great people like this. I came working with a great ag teacher and Mr. Weiler that taught me a lot of things, but having a team here, especially with a devoted middle school teacher, Miss Bradway, who I knew kicks life in the butt down there at the middle school, coming up here to have some kids that are already whipped into shape because she does such an amazing job, had a lot to do with it. And I guess the last thing I'll mention was Mr. Hughie. Dwayne Hughie was a retired ag teacher, had a lot to do with answering some questions and telling me that when I asked him like, "Hey, what do you think about this?" He didn't tell me not to do it. I wouldn't say he told me to, but it was a question that he answered in a way that made me feel like this was right for me. And so between all those people and my friends back home, the two Tinsmans, they mean a lot to me, and they helped me work through the question in my head, and they kind of convinced me. And I knew if these young people that are in a similar age as me thought it sounded like a good idea, then maybe I ought to try it. So now I'm here, and like you said, I'm not originally from Lebanon, but I'm glad I made the jump, and I am enjoying life in Boone County.
I think we're all so glad you're here. And with that, we've shared so many memories and laughter just within the past couple months of knowing each other. So going back to either your childhood or now being a teacher, what are some of the favorite memories that you've shared with students?
Okay, so this is a hard one because I feel like there are so many memories made in an ag classroom, and a classroom in general, but the ag classroom is just a different environment. It's a different place to be, and it's not something that everybody can understand if you don't experience it. There's just so many extra hours spent here, and there's just so much more that's hands-on, that's, sometimes maybe we, don't get the entire lesson plan done. Maybe there's an improviser, something that changes because, somebody says something or somebody brings someone in. Like I had some two traveling welders pop into my class one day because I had a student that was brave enough to walk up to their camper door and knock on their door and say, "Hey, I noticed you have welding trucks. Can we talk?" And then I asked the school, and they got to come in for a day. And it was amazing. It was the best thing. But those things you can't plan for. So a lot happens in an ag classroom that is just unexplainable, but it's like the best time. So even as a student, I had a lot of great memories with my ag teacher, Mr. McCollum, and just being in that room really did help set the standard for what I want to do and accomplish, and how we can have a little bit of a free spirit and just have fun. But while I've been here, gosh, it's been a year now, I guess. It's been a crazy time. We've had a lot of donuts. We've had a lot of chocolate milk, but whole chocolate milk. You can't have that 1% chocolate milk. Just ask Joe Susong. It's just not good. We've shared a lot of stories. We've had a lot of tears. We've had a lot of happies, a lot of crappies. There's just a lot that's happened. As you can probably look around the room and see a lot of crazy stuff that's in here, just in this back closet that we're in, and see the posters and wondering, man, what are they doing? But just a lot of really good times. A lot of students that are going to be near and dear to my heart forever. Being a young teacher is weird. Like I don't know how to explain it. I'm 23 years old, and I'm in charge of teenagers every single day. I don't think it should be legal because I feel like a kid most of the time, but it's been fun, and it makes it so much easier to relate to them, and I think they appreciate that. But so we share a lot of memories that I will definitely carry with me and that'll help me be a better teacher every day, I guess. I don't know if that answered your question at all, but that's what you got.
I love it. And I can certainly agree that ag rooms can be an interesting place, but it's the best place to be.
Yes.
So, Mr. Homan, do you have anything you'd like to share about that?
Is this specific to Lebanon or?
Oh, no, this can be anywhere.
Okay, well, definitely my favorite memory as an FFA member is National FFA Convention. So back in the day, before it was in Indy, it was in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, I've been there. Not that far back in the day.
Freshman year, Mr. Homan was the last year was in Louisville.
Yeah,
So.
back in the day.
Back in the day.
So that was my first National FFA Convention. I mean, to come from a town of 1,000 people and then walking to a stadium that's got 30,000 kids in blue jackets, I'm guessing that's how many were in Louisville, was, I mean, an incredible experience. Like, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. So to then translate that, last year, I was able to take students to National Convention for the first time as an advisor, and that was an amazing experience. So those are definitely my favorite memories, revolve around National FFA Convention.
I love it. I can't wait to go back to convention with you guys this year. It's going to be amazing. And Mr. Reed, I'm going to guess that your favorite memory is probably when we brought you brownies.
Oh, yes. That first day when in the park when the kids met me, brownies trying to convince me to come, was a core memory I'll remember for a long time.
Hey, I knew if I couldn't convince you to come here, Lauren's brownies definitely could.
Yeah. I'm going to piggyback off of what Miss Rudolph said. Just honestly, it's hard to pick a favorite memory. Being a member with two great ag teachers in my 4 years, and Mr. Goodwin and Mr. Prescott, there were so many good memories I shared with some of my best friends. And those people followed me to college even. My best buddies were my roommates. Those memories we made in FFA in high school translated to college. And actually one of those guys, Garrett Wagner, he and I in college received our American FFA degree, which obviously is something not everybody's able to get. And so in that junior year of college, after COVID swept through and we were able to put on our jackets one last time as a duo and a couple of best friends, that may top my favorites right now. Being able to put on the blue jacket one last time and walk across the stage in Indianapolis and get that American degree. That was pretty proud of myself and him to be what I think the first two people from our chapter to ever accomplish that. And so that may be the favorite memory, but I'm really excited to start this teaching career. Obviously, I'm about at 2 years in the classroom, and I've had some great memories that year in the first school. I had some great memories during student teaching up there with those Tri-County kids. They know they hold a special place in my heart, just like the Monroe Central kids. I mean, giving me my first at a lot of things, being in my first position as leading my own classroom or leading my own contest or leading my own field trip. Like, those things were something I'll never forget. But now being at Lebanon, I'm hoping to make new memories with a new batch of really, really, really great kids with some really great coworkers. And I know over the next, however many years I teach, there's going to be a lot of memories made. And like Kate said, the ag classroom provides an interesting opportunity that other clubs and sports and classes don't. And so there's going to be a lot of memories, I'm sure, even in the next week, that just things that happen in the classroom or in contests or in outside events that just stick with me for a long time. And I'm excited to make those memories with some great people alongside me. And we'll just have to see where the ride goes.
We are here in the back ag rooms of Miss Rudolph's room, which almost looks like a classroom in size. So there are many things that happen in the ag rooms that don't happen in other classrooms, but that can provide an excellent opportunity for students to learn and grow. I personally did not grow up on a farm or involved in the ag industry, but taking Miss Bradway's class in 8th grade truly opened my eyes. And I wouldn't even be thinking about a career in the ag field if it weren't for her. So turning it to you guys now, why would you recommend an ag class to students? Ms. Rudolph, you want to start us off?
Sure can. Okay, so like we talked about, like, an ag class does offer you so much, and it's like this really cool, super awesome opportunity, right? You get to do hands-on, super life applicable things every single day. And it's really cool too, because it's kind of a tie between like all of your other classes, right? It's a tie between science and business and history, right? I mean, it's everything. And that's why I think it's super cool, and that's why I think every kid should be in it, right? You don't have to come from an ag background. Obviously, like I said earlier, I grew up on a family farm. I grew up showing livestock. I'm a pretty basic ag kid, okay? But like I said too, I wanted to go into sports medicine. I played sports in high school. I love watching sports. I love being at sporting events. Like, if ag is my first love and passion, athletics is right behind it, right? Because I think they can both teach you a lot of things. But, the ag classroom is it's a really special place to be, and I'm glad I've kind of found my way back into it instead of taking that alternative route, because I get to incorporate that still in my life. But just being able to tie all those things together for a kid and make it super life applicable, because I don't need math. Yeah, you do. We use it every day. My ag fabrication boys were working on conversions, basic conversions that they probably did in 6th grade. Right? And they were like, why are we doing this? But it's super important. I had kids that were measuring the gym floor with a ruler because we were talking about how important it is to pick a measuring tool, right? So we just get to do really fun things, and, sometimes it seems silly, but it's really important. So I don't know. That's why I think a kid should, take an ag class.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, and I loved seeing the boys measure the gym floor with a 12-inch ruler. That was great. And Mr. Homan, you've had very much interesting experiences, like traveling the world. So you've seen a little bit of a different side of ag. So, how do you bring that back to a classroom in different ways? And why would you just recommend an ag class to a student?
Yeah, my travels abroad are one of the reasons why I teach agriculture. I've had the opportunity to spend some time in some pretty poor places, and I've seen there that agriculture is a way for young people to not only get out of poverty, but to break the cycle of poverty that's been going on for generations. And so they inspired me to then come back and be an ag teacher. And I think part of that is because of the practicality of it. Like Miss Rudolph was saying, when you go to Walmart and you're looking at all the different beef cuts, how do you know which one to buy? How do you know how to cook it? How do you know the nutrition in certain products that you're eating? Today in food science, we're looking at nutrition labels. And I had one of the kids say, I had no idea there was so much sugar in Gatorade. It's it's practical. So that's why you should take an ag class, and the applicability of it, but also the fact that it is a common language. Did you eat breakfast today?
I did.
I'm sure hopefully most of your listeners ate breakfast today too. But everyone has to eat. You wear clothes that are products of agriculture. The fuel in your tank's probably a product of agriculture. So not only is it applicable, but it's a necessity. So that's why everyone should take a class.
Obviously, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but I would recommend an ag class because I haven't necessarily traveled the world as much as Mr. Homan and had those experiences, but I have been across the country, 46 states to be exact, subtle flex, but traveling that many states has led me to see some things kind of like Mr. Homan mentioned. And, we have ag everywhere. And I like that, and I like that about National Convention as well, because ag is everywhere, and it's always going to be everywhere as long as we allow it to be. And being able to have that common connection with people all across pieces of land, whether it's the country or the world, in Mr. Homan's respect. But I think that's cool, being able to tie those things together. But you ask, why I recommend an ag class. I think what I tell the students, and whether it may be a little odd sounding or not, is without agriculture, you'd be naked and you'd be hungry, because we grow the things in cotton and produce wool via sheep production that make a lot of clothes. Therefore, agriculture clothes you, and we obviously feed you. And so without agriculture, you'd be naked and hungry. And the kids look at me funny when I say that, but then they get it. And so I think I'd recommend an ag class to a student. A lot of the things that Mr. Homan and Miss Rudolph said about you got to eat, and sometimes being a person who can go to the store and really understand what they're buying and what they're looking for and what needs they want to meet and maybe what things they want to avoid. I want to provide that for a student. Obviously, being kind of the heavy animal science teacher here at Lebanon, I try to teach those things about food production and about meat production and things, and I like that, translating that into the contest. One of my favorite contests is milk quality and products, and we learn a lot about identification of dairy and cheese. And coming from a typical livestock background, some people are surprised to hear my favorite contest isn't livestock judging or livestock scale-a-thon or meats evaluation, but it's milk quality. But again, going back to why I recommend an ag class is because there's a niche for everybody. And so whether that's food production or growing things that have to do with dairy products or whatever food you like, or clothing products if it's wool or cotton, or even precision. There's a precision ag class I've taught in the past that deals with drones and technology. Like, agriculture has doors for everybody to go through. And so I recommend an ag class to students because it's going to open doors that you never thought that they would. I mean, not everybody in agriculture really probably even desires to take an ag class because they're already here. They already know what's going on. I think my dad didn't even take ag classes because he was like, I already know about this, which was probably no offense, Dad, but might have been a little cocky. But I think those students that are not from an ag background, they should definitely be here because, well, you don't know something until you try it. And so they might find, like you said with Miss Bradway, you wouldn't have probably studied agriculture next year at the greatest college in the country, aka Purdue University.
Boiler up.
If you didn't take that class. And so I recommend taking these classes because you can seriously impact your life just by trying something. And what are you out if you try an ag class and hate it? I mean, you're gonna find 3 great teachers here at the high school that absolutely truly care about you. And if you'd hate it, oh well. I mean, you move on, you try a different subject area next year, but you're still left with 3 teachers that are always going to be in your corner, and you're going to leave with at least a little bit of knowledge about how to be a consumer.
I love it, and I totally agree. I feel like everyone can take at least something away from an ag class. There's so many different sectors, so many different fields that they can go, and just avenues in general that they can just have a better understanding of. That leads me to one of my last questions. I personally think it should be, but I know we've talked about it a little bit. We think ag should be a required class, maybe? Miss Rudolph, you want to start us off?
Yeah, so this is one of my biggest passions. Should ag be required? Yes, bottom line. And I know that's tough because there's so many things that are required, and it's really tough for, kids to hit all of those boxes that the state requires them to hit, right? I'm not saying that they need to take a full-length year or, an ag class every single year. Maybe it's not even in high school. Maybe it's in 8th grade. Maybe it's in 7th grade. They do the rotations, the 9-week rotations. Maybe it's that, okay? But like both Dustin and Drew have been saying about being a knowledgeable consumer. Like, we want kids to leave having some sort of knowledge about the industry, right? And it's really tough when you meet people in the community or in the, in a random place, maybe it's another state, wherever you're at, another country, that don't have access to this, right? I was blessed, right? I grew up on a family farm. I'm so grateful to my parents for raising me the way that they did. I was super lucky, and I loved every minute of it. Maybe not every minute. Maybe some of those chores during the polar vortex, my senior year of high school, maybe that was a little much, but, that wasn't on my parents, obviously. That was just a freak thing. But I'm so grateful that I have that and that I know about it. And it's definitely something that I've taken for granted before. But I also am not silly enough to, understand that not everybody has had that background. And that's one of my favorite parts about being an ag teacher, is getting to help people that don't have access to it. And so, yeah, I think it should be required just so that people do have access to it and have the opportunity to be that knowledgeable consumer, to go out into the real world and have that, maybe just the slightest bit of knowledge, right? I just want them to get something out of it. And so if we can make that happen, I think that it would be a super powerful thing for not just our community, our state, but just kind of our world in general, I guess. Not to be dramatic, but...
Mr. Homan, so going back off what Ms. Rudolph said, and then also at the end, at Lebanon, we have a very diverse demographic of students coming from all different backgrounds, knowledge, areas, all of that. So why would you recommend that ag should be a required class?
Well, I feel like you kind of set us up for this one, right? Like, we have to say yes because we're employed as ag teachers, right? So... if we say no, we're out of a job. I agree with what Miss Rudolph was saying. I do think the one caveat, I used to work for an organization that tried to get ag into chemistry classrooms and biology classrooms. And I think that's a really cool approach to take too, because chemistry and biology can be very theoretical. But if you use agriculture as the way to practically teach ions and covalent bonds and animal cells and plant cells, you can use ag to do that. So even if a school doesn't have an ag class, be able to teach agriculture through those subjects, I think is a really cool opportunity. And yeah, with diverse backgrounds, again, it comes back to the fact that we all have to eat. One of the reasons I love teaching foods is because it is a way for diverse students to express themselves. So surprise, I don't know if I've told you this, but coming up, you'll get in your groups, you guys are going to choose a dish that like embodies your culture or your heritage and share it with the class. We get to do that through foods. And it's such a unique way to like showcase your diversity as well. I think it's be inclusive of the ag industry. There's a lot of people that work in the ag industry that look like us, tend to be white, used to be heavily male dominated. We've got more females now. I think we have a role to play in helping to diversify our workforce.
I agree. Continue to advocate for a diverse workplace and just making sure that everyone feels included in the ag industry, because there is certainly a spot for everyone. And Mr. Reed, do you have something else you can add to this conversation?
You know, when you first asked me,
I feel like that was a little.
sorry,
You're done.
Do you have something to add?
sorry, I do have something to add. Thanks for asking, Lauren. You know, when you first asked me, like, do I think ag should be a required class? I almost like play devil's advocate and be like, well, it's not for everybody. Like, do we need to make it a requirement? But then the more I think about it, and I go back to my answers from earlier on, like, everybody's got to eat. No matter if you're vegan, vegetarian, or a carnivorous beast, you got to eat. You do. And so I think that kind of embodies why I think, yes, whether it's a 9-week course for 8th graders or 4 years, of high school, you're taking a year-long class, whatever it is, I think it needs to be somewhat required. Again, like Ms. Rudolph said, even if it's just that rotation, because one thing that bothers me as an agriculturalist and someone who tries and strives to raise quality livestock for meat production is when the keyboard warriors online,
I know where you're going with this.
they toss around misconceptions, right? They say things about farming that isn't true, and it makes me mad. And, like she said, working out in the polar vortex, we get out and raise these livestock in unideal conditions, whether it's heat, cold, or late or early in the morning, or whatever it may be. We do the best we can to raise livestock and raise food in some unideal conditions. And so when I see these people online or in public settings that are saying like incorrect information or the mislabeling of things in the store, it gets under my skin. And so I think a little bit of ag classes to those teenage kids when they're in a pivotal point in their life, if we as educators can show them that no, like not everything you see is true. We do 99% of farmers do things the right way and for the right reasons. And so even if they're in our class for 9 weeks, if we can show them that some of those things aren't true, some of those things need a little bit more evidence before consumers believe them. I think if that's all it is, if it's 9 weeks talking about consumerism and understanding what's a fact and what it may be an opinion, would be super, super helpful to making agriculture flow the way it should. Because obviously, in the FFA creed, I believe in a future of agriculture. And if we're going to have a strong future, we got to have smart, educated people leaving our classrooms. And so I'm not saying that they're not going out of math class or English class educated, but they're not in the same way as they leave our class. And so, people being at the grocery store, they need to know what they're buying, and I think that's what we provide for them. So I would like to tell the people that make all the rules and laws is put them in my class for at least 9 weeks, and I'll educate them the best I can about being proper consumers.
Preach.
I love it so much. If it was me, I would take as many ag classes as I could. I think I've almost maxed out, but
I think she has almost.
I think
maxed out.
she said she's gonna actually come back next year.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we said she said she was gonna come back again so that she could be in our classes and be our awesome assistant and our
sure?
president.
Yeah,
and
Mr. Meyer, if you're out there listening to
Yeah,
this, can we
please-
get Lauren expelled
please
so she
fail
has
her.
to come
No,
back
no.
next year?
Please fail her.
no, let's not do that. Anyways, so we could talk days and days about ag and FFA, but I'm going to open up the field. Would you guys like to add anything?
I would love to add
Okay.
something because we were just talking about how awesome Lauren is and how we want to keep her around. I think this is an appropriate time to put in a little plug about how awesome she is and just she's a rock star. So you guys may or may not know how awesome Lauren Argate is, but I know the three of us sitting here really, really do. Lauren is a national FFA finalist for Agriscience. And this is a really big deal. She's in the top 10 in the nation. She won state in June, and now she made it to the top 10 all the way there. Today, she actually had her final interview, and she did super awesome. I wasn't in there, but I just know she did. And in October at National FFA Convention, she gets to walk up on stage with the other 9 finalists, because there's 10 of them, and she'll find out her results. But just a little plug for how cool she is and how much hard work she puts in here at Lebanon.
Thank you so much. I'm already thinking about what I want to do next and all the future goals I have, but I can't wait to stand on the stage with you and share the moment with all my ag teachers who have helped me along the way.
No, just echo what Miss Rudolph said, and thanks for this opportunity.
Of course. Thank you guys for sitting on the podcast with me. Mr. Reed, did you want to show off your auctioning skills?
I think he would love to.
Well, before I do that, I assume this podcast is going to come out before December 13th. And so with that, I will plug in here. If you're listening and you're in the Lebanon community in Boone County area, we are having a FFA-related auction here at a basketball game here that the Lebanon Tigers are going to play in. And if you would like to come out and support our chapter financially, we would love to see your hand raised, and I could put you in at a bid. I am also a licensed auctioneer, is what Lauren was getting at. And so we're going to have this auction here and trying to make some money for our chapter so we can keep doing cool things and sending kids to contests like Lauren. Competing can be expensive, but if we're going to turn out kids like Lauren Agate and have the results we have, we'll keep doing it. We just need a little money to keep doing that. And so I would plug in here to come out to that ball game, support our Tigers, play a basketball game, but also support us here at Lebanon FFA. And so I guess Lauren wants me to try my auctioneering skills a little bit. So I'll just sell you a fake market steer here. We've been talking about meats evaluation, but hey, here, what do you do on the market steer? You better be $1,000 now. You better be $1,000 now. You better be $2,000 now. Here now, 25. You better be hey, Kate, thank you. You better be 25 now. Here, yes or no? I'm gonna go 25 now. You better be 27 bitty. So I'm out here. 2,500 goes to Lauren Argate, our great FFA president here. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Lauren, so much.
Of course, thank you so much. Maybe we'll have you again sometime soon. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Learn in Lebanon podcast. Next time, we'll hear from the seniors of Lebanon FFA as they prepare for the 97th National FFA Convention. FFA has played a vital role in shaping their future career paths. They've all had their own unique experiences within the Blue Jacket. We cannot wait to share their stories with you. Until next time, this is Lauren Argate signing out.